All ready to go?
Do it, man.
So where are we at? What happened? Saul beat some Amorites up.
So he was already anointed king. Uh, Chris brought us chapters 9 and 10, and so Samuel anoints Saul as king, and they were like, okay, Saul, like he's from the smallest tribe of Israel, the smallest clan, and the smallest family in the tribe. I mean, he's like a taller, good-looking guy, but like he's like a nobody. He doesn't. There's nobody's looking at that group. It's kind of like people looking for the Bidens. Just kidding. um, no, I'm not going to go political, guys. So there was nobody looking at that person to be the king, but God said
they didn't respect it.
Right, and so they were like, okay, fine, you're going to be the king. And so Samuel brought everybody together and said, all right, everybody, listen up. This is your king. His name is Saul. Saul's your king. And so they were like, cool. And then they turned around and everybody went home. But then a bad guy named Nahash, the Ammonite, surrounded this village, this town. And they said, all right, we've heard bad things about you. You're a bad guy. You're a villain. Are you gonna come and attack us? And if so, would you spare our lives and we'll just be your servants? We'll just give you that right off the bat. To spare our lives, we'll serve you. To protect our lives. And he's like, yeah, that's a pretty good plan, except for I need to embarrass you like I've done the other ones. I'm going to pluck everybody's right eyeball out, and you'll serve me, and I'll let you live. And they were like, this doesn't sound as good of a deal to us.
Yeah.
So they said, we're going to write some letters and send some messengers out to Israel and see if someone will come and help us. Give us 7 days. And so 7 days, within that 7 days, message got to Saul's town, and the people were crying, oh, this guy's on a rampage. He's going to take all their eyeballs, this and the other. And it says Saul was coming in from moving the cattle out in the field. And he's like, he's like, get in there, cow. I was like, why are all these ladies crying? What's going on over there? Said, oh, yeah, Nahash has got these. And it was at that moment, Saul goes, well, dadgummit, I'm the king. And they're not going to do that to my people. And so he gathered the guys up, and he went out there, and he whipped up on Nahash. And then the people were like, that's our king. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's my king right there. So Saul rescues Jabesh Gilead. Okay? So that's where we come to the end of chapter 11 from last week, is Saul is not just anointed, named. So the way I put it was, it's like elections coming up in 2 weeks? So someone's going to be elected to something, right? Let's say the governor. There's no presidential election this time. Someone's going to be elected as governor, but they're not going to actually become governor until January.
Yeah.
So like they were like, okay, and this is your king, and then everyone left. And it wasn't until this moment, a little while later, that they were like, yeah, this guy really is our king. Yeah, exactly. So that's where we ended chapter 11. Now we're going into chapter 12, and we're going to see what is going to transpire, because it was, hey, Saul, you're anointed as the king, and now it's really good. We're happy. We're celebrating everything. Now let's see if we continue going up or level off, or if we go back down. It seems like we're kind of doing this ride through Samuel. Things are good and things are terrible, and things are good and things are bad. Things are good and things are bad. So we're going to go through, okay? All right. Welcome to 1 Samuel chapter 12. I am glad that you're here. We didn't have to compete with the Astros game because we swept the Yankees. So we'll go ahead and celebrate that. Going to the World Series again. It's like an annual tradition just about now. So that's pretty cool. The first 2 games are here. Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday they're off, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday they are in Philadelphia. Hopefully we'll be done by then, but if not, we'll come back for the last 2 here.
We plan on cancel next week.
We can take a break next week. There's a lot of stuff happening, and
it really is. It's nothing about my teaching, but
yeah. No, it's fine. That's fine. We'll do that. All right. So we kind of ended on the high note where everyone's celebrating. Yay, Saul! Yay, Saul! Right? So let's go into chapter 12 and let's see what happens now. Then, and you know when you're reading the Bible, you're like, yeah, and then that's kind of like a turning, right? It's like, uh-oh, what are they going to say now? Then Samuel, remember Samuel's the prophet, the priest. Samuel said to all Israel, I've listened to your voice in all that you said to me, and have made a king over you. So he's acknowledging, listen, you guys are now, I can hear the chants, like that guy is your king, because you're celebrating him, you're excited about him, right? And now see, the king walks before you, but I am old and gray-headed. So he's saying the transition is happening, where this guy is stepping up to be your king. And look at me, I'm old, I'm gray, like I'm fading into the back. I'm fading into the background. And as for my sons, they are with you, but we kind of know his sons are kind of turkeys, right? They are following in that same kind of pattern where, remember, Eli from the beginning of Samuel and his two sons, Phineas and Hophni, were perverting things and cheating people and all this kind of stuff. And that's why they got rid of him. And Samuel shows up. And now Samuel, they notify that Samuel's sons are not super on the up and up either. So that's when they decided that, hey, we want a king. So Samuel says in verse 12, in chapter 12 here, verse 2, he goes, and my sons are with you. Like, I don't know how much that helps, but my sons are here too, okay? But I have walked before you from my childhood to this day. And remember, his mom was praying for a child. And she said, if you give me a child, then I'll dedicate him to the Lord. And literally, he was a little kid when he started serving in the tabernacle. So he's been there. Do what? Yeah, Samuel to be asked for. And so he has literally been there since childhood. So behold, here I am, witness against me before the Lord and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken? What he's doing here, he's not asking rhetorical questions. He is asking what we see in the Psalms later, where it says, search me, O God. Look for, is there any wickedness in me that I haven't confessed? Is there something that I'm hiding? A pet temptation or a pet sin that I like to, God, make me look holy, God, but really, I really like to talk about this gossip, and I really like to watch The View, and I like to, or whatever. Yeah. Or like, oh yeah, totally. And then when I'm in private, I'm looking up stuff on the internet I shouldn't be looking, or whatever. Okay. So there's this idea of, it's like, no, open, honest, transparent. What is it? Okay. What do you have against me? Whose ox have I taken? But did I steal something from anybody? Let me know. Or whose donkey have I taken? Did I take your ride? Did I steal your Ferrari? Right? Or whom have I defrauded? Who have I taken more than I should have from them? Or taken from them at all? Whom have I oppressed? Who did I give negative news to because I wanted to see them suffer? Let me know, guys. Or from whose hand have I received any bribe to blind my eyes with? Like, hey, don't inquire to God about this, because I know this is not, I'm cheating on my taxes over here, so I'll just turn a blind eye to that, and I'll give you a little bit of a cut. Who has bribed me, or I will not pay attention to their sin. Indeed, I will restore it to you. I'll pay you back. If I've taken your ox, let me know. I'll give you an ox. If I've taken your donkey, I'll give you your donkey back. Okay? Let me know. That's what he's saying. That's verse 3. Verse 4. And they said, Israel, the people of Israel, thousands and thousands of people said, you've not defrauded us, nor oppressed us. Neither have you taken anything from any man's hand. So what does that tell you right there? Samuel operates in a positive, just, fair, equal style. Right? He doesn't care who he's talking to. If God gives him a word, he's telling that person. He's not saying, oh wow, God, you just told me that that Bradford is supposed to die by a stack of chairs falling on him. I certainly don't want to tell him that. That's a terrible way to die. And then I'm going to watch him walk around and stack chairs, and I'm like, okay, this is it. This is it. Like I'm going to withhold that because I don't want to let him know. But Samuel's not doing that. He's like, don't stack chairs, bro. Walk away. Just walk away from the chairs, okay? So he's saying that you've done nothing to defraud us, nothing to oppress us, and you haven't taken anything from any man's hand. You're doing exactly what God asked you to do. Verse 5 now. 1 Samuel 12, verse 5 now. And he said to them, the Lord is witness against you, and his anointed is witness this day. His anointed, the king, Saul, is witness this day, that you have not found anything in my hand. So he's saying, by God and by this new king, Saul, and all of your word, you're saying that I'm on the up and up. Are we all in agreement here? And they're like, yeah, okay. So let's see. He is witness. So they're saying to Saul, yeah, he's a witness too, because he's standing there with us. Okay, go to verse 6. Samuel said to the people, it is the Lord that prepared Moses and Aaron and brought your fathers up out of the land of Egypt. So now Samuel is going way back. He's rewinding the tape. Let's go back in time. Why do you think he's doing that? Let's continue reading. We'll find out, okay? He's not talking about just when he was a kid, 50, 60, 70 years ago. He's talking about hundreds of years ago.
Well, I'm thinking 1200 on this area. Because I was just wondering how far, the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're 1200 years. That's some time.
Yeah, it's been some time. It's been multiple hundred years to up to 1200.
You listen to teachings. I mean, they teach off of the Moses.
Correct. Yeah, so he's saying the same God, the Lord that prepared Moses and Aaron and brought your fathers up out of the land of Egypt. Now therefore stand still, that I may reason with you before the Lord concerning all the righteous acts of the Lord, which he did for you and your fathers. Remember, Samuel's the prophet. He's the priest. He's the one that connects the people to God. That's his job. And so what is he doing? He's doing what Moses did in the book of Deuteronomy, which we didn't go through Deuteronomy. But duet, what's a duet? Two, right? So Deuteronomy means the second telling of the law.
There you go.
Okay? The Leviticus is a bunch of law. And so what we see is here we have one of the next guys down the line, hundreds and hundreds of years later, is still telling the same story over and over because he is reminding those people from their historical roots. It's not about this guy you see in front of you. It's not even about me that you see in front of you. It's about this God and what he has been doing for you this whole time and is currently doing stuff. And he will be the one that will continue to do it for you going forward. Not this king, but this God. And that's what he's trying to get at, all right? So he says, when Jacob went into Egypt and your fathers cried out to the Lord sent Moses and Aaron, who brought forth your fathers out of Egypt and made them dwell in this place. When they forgot the Lord their God, he sold them into the hand of Sisera, captain of the host of Hazor, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king of Moab, and they fought against them. And they cried to the Lord and said, we have sinned because we've forsaken the Lord, and we've served the Baals and the Ashtoreths. But now deliver us out of the hand of our enemies, and we will serve you. So once again, by the way, that's a reference to Judges chapter 4, which we didn't go through Judges chapter 4. But if you go back in time and look at Judges chapter 4, that's the story of the Sisera, the captain of the Philistines. Okay, so you can go back and look at that if you want to. But he's talking about we have Joseph, who got sold into slavery. Oh, it's so sad. But then he rises a second in land, and he preserves his entire family. They grow up in Egypt, and then at the end of their time there, they become slaves. And so they cry out to God, and he raises Moses and Aaron to bring them out. And then they get this capture by Sisera, the captain. And they're like, oh, we'll certainly worship you now, God, instead of these false gods. Just rescue us. And so he rescues. So what do you see this pattern forming here?
They promise God will do this, and they let him down.
Yeah. Who's not holding up the end of the agreement?
Israelites.
That's right. The Israelites. So Samuel is not only reminding them of what God has done, he's also reminding them of what the Israelites are typical of doing. It would be like, Bradford, typical, man. You always do that same thing every single time. I mean, I love you. I mean, it's not every single time you're still doing that same thing. Yeah, just representing. All right, so that's kind of where we're at. So we go down here to verse 11. The Lord sent Jerubbaal, Bedan, Jephath, and Samuel, and he delivered you out of the hand of your enemies on every side, and you dwelled in safety. You dwelled in safety. You hear that? That was because of what they did or because of what God did? What God did, right? And when you saw that Nahash, remember we just saw that in 1 Samuel chapter 11, Nahash, the bad guy who surrounded them and wanted to pluck their eyeballs out. When you saw that Nahash, the king of the Ammonites, came against you, you said to me, no, but a king will reign over us. And when the Lord your God was your king, you didn't have a human king, you had God as your king. But this Nahash guy came in there and you guys were like, no, we want a king. Give us a dude that we can dress up in fancy clothes and put a crown on his head.
Yeah.
Okay?
Pay taxes to, right?
Yeah, and pay taxes to him. So verse 13, now therefore look at the king whom you've chosen, or for whom you have asked. Like you asked for it, here he is. All right? So I'll do this to help Robin.
It's still bugging Samuel.
It is. He's kind of tearing into him, isn't he?
You can go back 5 chapters and it's still bugging Samuel.
Yep.
You know, it's just, what did you guys do? Because he knows. Remember, he's a prophet.
Yep.
He sees what's coming.
There's Saul, the king. All right, Robin? That's what I'm talking about.
And now you know what's going on, right?
So he's saying, now look, here's your king. That's the one you asked for. This is the one. Not your God anymore. He's not your king. We've got this guy. Look at him. Saul. That's a good-looking dude, right? And then I think, like I agree with you, Samuel is kind of laying into him a little bit here. And I think at this point, he then says, okay, I've kind of, time out. I've kind of yelled at him a little bit. Let me give some advice now. And so he says, if you will fear the Lord and serve him and obey his voice and not rebel against the commandment of the Lord, then both you and the king that reigns over you will continue following the Lord your God. So notice Samuel is putting the king, the hierarchy in Samuel's discussion here, has God up top, and then the king, and then the people, right? That's what Samuel is telling them right now. He said, you have God, you worship and serve him, and he will make sure that, and your king worships God, he will make sure that you're taken care of. It doesn't flow from the king, it flows from God. Did Moses have a master plan to part the Red Sea? No. He got there and he was like, water, what are we going to do? We got a problem. And God said, raise your staff above it, and I'll part the waters. It wasn't Moses' master plan. It's not Saul, the king's master plan. It's God's. But when he takes credit for it, what's going to happen? It's going to fall back, right? So let's continue. Verse 15. But if you will not obey the voice of the Lord, but rebel against the commandment of the Lord, then will the hand of the Lord be against you, as it was against your fathers. So this is a pretty dire warning. Again, Saul, good-looking guy. He's a head taller than everybody. Was pleasing to the eye. And he has, in his first kind of battle, shown that he can lead the people. But the people need to realize that he is just a leader being led by God, not he is the leader by himself. Verse 16. Even now, take your stand and see this great thing which the Lord is doing before your eyes. Is it not the wheat harvest today? Think about it. Who is the king sitting in his palace, waving his magic wand, saying, let it rain, let the harvest grow, let it come up from the ground, let those seeds become grain that we can grind up into flour and make bread? Is that the king doing that? No, it's God. And so he says, turn around. Look around you guys. Look. You see all those fields out there? The wheat ready to be harvested? That wasn't done by me, your prophet. That wasn't done by by Saul, your king. That's done by God. Give him the credit. Give him the worship. He's the one in charge of it. Okay? So go back to verse 16. Even now, take your stand. So he's like, stand up, and look around. See the great thing which the Lord is doing before your eyes. Is it not the wheat harvest today? And then I think Samuel is almost kind of showing off here, because the next thing he does is he goes, I'll call on the Lord. I'll do it. And he will send thunder and rain, that you may know and see that your wickedness is great, which you have done in the sight of the Lord by asking for yourselves a king. So he's still telling on him, man. He's like, and I'll do it too. I'll call down the rain and thunder. You guys are making a terrible mistake. He's getting after him. So Samuel called to the Lord, and the Lord sent thunder and rain that day, and all the people greatly feared the Lord and Samuel. Greatly feared the Lord and Samuel. They're like, man, this old guy, he's old and gray. He's kind of crazy. But apparently he's still in line with God, because he said he's going to call down.
Direct contact.
Yeah. All the people said to Samuel, pray for your servants to the Lord your God, that we will not die, for we have added to all our sins this evil, to ask for ourselves a king. They have a moment here, a little window, where they say, maybe this wasn't such a good idea to put a man in charge of us. We had God in charge of us, and we just didn't listen. We didn't pay attention. We wanted to do it our own way. And Samuel said to the people, do not fear. You have done all this wickedness. Only do not turn aside from following the Lord, and serve the Lord with all your heart. But do not turn aside, for then you will be going after empty things which cannot profit or deliver, for they are nothing. So I want to show you this. This is where's my eraser? A little fuzzy eraser that I got. It's pretty cool. So let me erase this, and I'm going to draw something here. And Chris, I want your input, because I feel like this is going to be a direct correlation.
Don't erase the portrait.
No, Saul stays.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Saul stays. Saul he's just
Very well dressed.
man.
Yeah, exactly. What
He's got it going on. The outfit and everything. All right. So Chris, work with me here. You're a trainer. Okay? So I start right here, okay? And I'm 30% body fat. Is that good or bad? Needs help. Okay? Probably about right too. Okay? So I continue on my life, and slowly through stress and everything else, I'm now at 40% body fat. What's going to be happening to my body as I'm going through that?
Well, it puts a lot of stress on your organs too.
So unnecessary stress. We're already going to have stress living our lives. We're going to have unnecessary stuff because of that. So let's say that we were going to have a plan of working out and dieting. What's a projected downward trend that we should expect from a 40% body fat person? Based on my personal experience of losing weight, there's going to be a pretty quick, if you're pretty consistent, there's a pretty quick drop off at first, and then it's going to kind of level out.
Your body's like, what's going on?
Yeah, what's happening here? Well, let's say we drop down here and we're at 25% body fat. Is that good or bad? Getting better. Not amazing, but better, right? More livable. But then, oh no, the Astros were playing, and I had 2 bowls of queso by myself. And
World Series. Come on, what could you do?
yeah, and I had a sweet tooth after that. I had a chocolate milkshake. A large chocolate milkshake. Okay, so after that weekend, when I weighed myself, I was at a 28% body fat. I should just quit working out now, right? I'm done. I should quit working out, right? What's the next step, though?
Keep going.
If I keep going, but listen, I weigh myself later that week, and I'm at 30% body fat. What's happening? Am I what I'm doing the wrong thing?
Well, you're still suffering from the last mistake.
That's right. It's going to carry. It doesn't happen overnight. And so that's very similar to what we see here with Israel, okay? The main idea is that there's got to be consistency, right? Those bad choices follow you. So if this is a baseline, right? We see Israel, they go negative because they're worshiping the gods in Egypt, right? And they're 400 years there. And God says, okay, enough's enough. I got to call you out of there. So he's got the plagues. So with each plague, I could see them saying, wow, this is the real God. This is the true God. Boom, they're back to worshiping God. Then, we get to the Red Sea. Oh, but we crossed the Red Sea. Oh, we're in the desert. There's no fresh water.
Oh, it's for 40 years, right?
Oh, there's water out of a rock that Moses hit with his staff, right? Oh, that's great. But now we're at the mountain and there's no food here. Oh, I'm going to give you quail every day. Oh, but the quail, I'm tired of eating the same quail and the manna every morning. Right? You see what's happening? This is the life of Israel. What Samuel is telling them is, listen, this is your pattern right here. And you have chosen, instead of choosing, potentially saying that we want to make God our king, you have said we want to make another man, a fellow sinner, the king that we want to follow. And I'm telling you, this is a bad deal. And he goes, instead of sitting down here and wallowing, you and your king work on being consistent in choosing to worship God. Don't live on these past mistakes that I'm calling out in this narrative. Work on working forward. What would you say to somebody who had those 2 bowls of queso and the milkshake and their body fat went up? Would you say, well, yeah, you should just give up, man?
Yeah, we got to get after it, man.
Yeah. You don't stop. You keep going. You keep going. And then you put things in place like, hey.
Put it behind us, man. Let's keep going.
That's right. That's right. You can't live in that place anymore. It happened, but we've got to move forward. Is everybody tracking with me?
The Israelites, he was right. They get sidetracked very easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost day to day.
Stiff-necked people, right?
Yes, almost day to day, right? So that's the idea behind what Samuel is talking about here. Is he's saying, guys, you guys got these ups, you got these down, and you're prone to making these decisions and forgetting who God is in your life on a regular basis. But you know what? I do the same thing. I do it. Do you do it?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, I got a paycheck. I can pay my bills today. I'm good to go. Oh, it's the end of the month. Bank account's got $3.75 in it. How are we going to make it? Lord, please provide for us. Oh, payday hits. Yeah, let's go, dude. Blah, blah. Right? I've been there before. But we are grafted into, if you'll remember this from our New Testament studies, which we've been focused on the Old Testament for most all of our time together, but we talk about that we've got in John 15, Jesus says, I am the vine and you are the branches. And apart from me, you can't bear fruit. But those who remain plugged into me, you will bear fruit. And what does a vine make? What kind of fruit? Grapes.
Okay.
Grapes. Because the fruit of the vine is wine you make from grapes, right? So
you did, John. You were showing us the parallels between Genesis and John.
Yeah. So staying plugged in is what gets the fruits to come out, right? But when you say, well, I'm good on my own, that's like this stick here laying on the ground. Is that thing going to have any fruit growing on it? Nope. So they have to say, I cannot live without being plugged in. I must continue to be plugged in. If I decide I can do it on my own, I'm dead. And our pastor did a good job a couple of Sundays ago. He had a leaf, one of those sweet gum trees or whatever, and he had one that was like black colored. Basically, it had been dead in the parking lot or whatever. And then another one was green. He said, "Which one's dead?" And he held both of them, a green one and the black one, and he said, "Both of them are dead." Yeah. Why?
Because
they're disconnected from the tree.
Exactly. Yeah, like I tried to my niece. You pick a fire out of the ground, you kill the fire.
That's right.
It's like pretty, but you just killed it. Yeah.
That's right. So they're both dead.
Yeah.
Just one's been dead a little longer.
Yeah.
We've got to remain plugged into the source. We've got to remain plugged into the source. And that's what Samuel is begging them to do right here in 1 Samuel chapter 12. So all the people in verse 19, 1 Samuel 12:19, all the people said to Samuel, "Pray for your servants to the Lord your God that we will not die, for we have added to all our sins this evil to ask of ourselves of a king." They realize it. Man, we really messed up. And Samuel said to the people, "Do not fear. You have done all this wickedness. Only don't turn from the side. Don't let that be you had 2 bowls of queso in a milkshake, and now you're just going to give up on life. Don't turn aside. Continue on the path that you're supposed to be walking. Keep going. Don't stop. You got to make it. Do not turn aside, for then you would be going after empty things which cannot profit or deliver, for they are nothing. As befits his great name, the Lord will not abandon his people, for it has pleased the Lord to make you his people." Did they do anything to garner or to earn God's attention? What did Israel do to make God say, man, look at this people. I need to make those my people. Did they do anything? No, they didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, all they have done is continue to blunder that relationship over and over and over and over. Yet who remains faithful? God does. Go to verse 23. "Moreover, as for me, God forbid that I sin against the Lord in ceasing to pray for you, but I will teach you the good and the right way. Fear the Lord, serve him in truth with all your heart, and consider what great things he has done for you. But if you still do wickedly, both you and your king will be swept away." He's telling them it's not going to be good. If you don't do the right thing, it's not going to be good. And I'm going to come back to this. I know we talked about this back in Genesis. We've got 2 sides, and what I'm drawing here is a pool of blood. And then we have, right? You see what that is?
Oh, it's a cut in half.
It's a cow cut in half, remember?
Whoa.
So if you remember that there's a covenant that even today, some of the remote, rural, Middle Eastern, Near East people will do what's called a covenant with another party. And what it is it's 2 parts. The first part says, I am the greater party. I'm the one who's able to make sure that this covenant between us is upheld. Okay? And then the second one is normally the lower party. So the upper party provides the sacrifice. And then the lower party says, if I don't live up to my end of the covenant, may I be like this animal for breaking that covenant, for not doing my part. May that be the case. And when Abram, in Genesis, he was in sleep paralysis, where he was sleeping, but he couldn't move. But he's like, I can't move. I can't go anywhere. He was terrifying, but he was in sleep paralysis. And God, he took slot number 1, and he walked through there to say, I am the God. I'm in charge. I'm the most powerful. I'm going to set this agreement between you and your descendants, Abram. I'm doing it. And then Abram was in sleep paralysis still. So who took the party? Spot number 2. God went through a second time. And he said, and if you don't live up to your end of the covenant, I will pay the price for you. If you don't live up to your end of the covenant, I will pay the price for you.
Sounds like a win-win, huh?
For us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly what he did and fulfilled through Jesus. He said, only I am God who can create you, sustain you, make you live, give you a hope. But you can't save yourself. You're living in sleep paralysis. You've literally done nothing except for cause me to have a covenant. And as a matter of fact, you can't even fulfill the part of the second party. I'm going to do that in the third person of my essence, in my son Jesus, I'm going to send him to pay that price for you that you can't do yourself. And that's really what Samuel's talking about here. He's really saying, and I like to go back here to verse 21. Don't turn aside, for then you'll be going after empty things. Why are you concerned about making sure your king has the best chariots and this and that? Who cares about that? Worship God. Don't get distracted. Stay right here where you're supposed to be. And as befits his great name, the Lord will not abandon his people. God is the one who carries out the covenant, and God is the one who completes the covenant. The people, what have they done? They've only been the reason that God had to pay that price. They've only been the reason that he had to walk through that second time because they can't take care of themselves. And that's us.
Yes, you can say the cross to bear.
The cross to bear. That's us. Saul, he's not done. We're still going to talk about Saul.
He's been kind of quiet in chapter 12.
He's been quiet in chapter 12 because like that, where Drew says God pointed to the king, pointed to the people. He is underneath God too. And so he's getting his butt chewed out as well. Samuel is not differentiating that Saul is better, spiritually speaking, than the people. He is saying Saul's just as apt to mess up this whole thing that you are. As a matter of fact, wait and see. Wait and see. And just for this moment, the people right here in verse 19, they say, oh man, we really messed up. We should have focused on God. We got distracted. We got turned aside. Now notice they didn't say, take away the king, because ultimately Samuel was told by God to go anoint Saul. Remember that? So it's still part of God's plan to have Saul involved here. Ultimately, it's not necessarily to bless the nation of Israel. It might be to punish the nation of Israel. Because a good father, I've got 3 boys. I know you've got children. And you've got children. And you've got children. When you have to discipline them, whether that's a spanking or grounding or scolding them or whatever it is, that's not like your favorite part of the day. It's not like, yeah, I get to spank my kid today. Like that's terrible. But when you truly love your kids, your job at that age is to teach them that thing that they did was wrong or disobedient to you or whatever, and there's a consequence to that. To learn consequences to the actions, whatever that looks like. And so God is going to use Saul to show the consequences to their choices, to their actions. And so we're going to start seeing that here in the next few chapters as we go forward. Thanks for joining us.